All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Maxfield English, the chair of the DRB in Wolcott, and I will let the other board members here introduce themselves.
Chad Roy.
Are we expecting any?
Bruce indicated that.
I think we can probably open the hearing, and then hopefully he makes it along at some point here. So we're opening conditional use 2309 Neige LLC. It's a continuation from 3 months ago on for primitive campgrounds, but I do believe that application has changed a little bit. So the update, is this the updated version, Tom?
Yes.
Okay, so the updated is that the project is to create and operate a primitive campground on 15% of the property. The improvements required to do this include to clear brush from existing forest roads for access, clear foliage and level ground to create campsites, and install a well to support the primitive campground. This sounds like it's been updated, correct? The applicant is here, correct?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do first is I guess I'll swear you in and I will let you explain the updates. Is that probably the easiest thing to do? So do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth to the best of your understanding under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is there anybody else in here that plans on testifying in this hearing? Because I need to swear you in if you do. Okay, all right. So, and you both were sworn in. Okay, so we'll let the applicant sort of explain how the project has changed, because it has.
Should I say it from here?
It depends on where everybody can hear you. It's
Okay. Okay. My name is
We can't hear on Zoom. Could you use the microphone, please?
Jake and I just have a switch up. This is here now.
Okay. Hi, my name is Fung Fu. I was here at the last meeting back in December where we had applied for the conditional use permit. The changes we have made since then is that we've reduced it down to 3 sites. And that's the main thing. We don't plan on having we removed the porta potties. We will be having instead instead of having the porta potty, we'll have one that's just on site. That's the microbe one. We won't have any noise. I think one of the concerns was around the noise and generator hours. We won't be allowing that. Last time it was pointed out that we needed to submit apply for a state and water system permit. We did that on the 17th. We've provided Tom a copy. We should be expecting some response back within the next couple of weeks. The other thing was the question around the increased traffic on the private road. Initially, when we had applied for it was for 15 sites, but since we've reduced it down to 3, we expect there to only be the traffic concern would be reduced. But we are open to contributing or help offsetting the shared cost and maintaining the road, because I think that was one of the concerns of one of the residents before. Another thing noted was related to the permits for the platforms themselves that were created, and also the sign. And this application also includes a permit for the 3 platforms and also for the sign. And that was it for the changes, but I will, if there's if I missed something, if someone can ask questions now.
Just to summarize so I understand. So it's 3, I guess, tiny houses is probably the best description.
No, not tiny houses.
3 glamp, like bell tents on platforms.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
kind of like the ones they have Craftsberry. I forget what it's called now, but it's like a deck with a
Yes. So our initial application was for 15, which included the 3 like glamping tents, and also for the 12 I guess 12 open where someone would bring their own tent. But as someone had pointed out that it would require a state permit into doing that, we reduced it down just to the 3 bell tents with the deck.
And that's it.
Yeah.
No motorized RVs. Nothing.
And how does that change? I guess I'm not just like familiar with what the state requirement was from the 15 sites.
It would,
3.
so there was a requirement that if it was 4 or more, then we couldn't, it would, I think it was 4 or more, then it wasn't just asking a conditional use permit from Wolcott. It would also go to the state for a permit to operate as such.
Okay.
So the reason I just pulled up the revised application, so I see the 3 tent sites.
Yep.
The 3 guest parking spots, so 4 total, so one for personal use, I'm assuming that's for you.
Yes,
One next to this. 4 spots in the clearing along the road. What's the total number of parking spots, I guess is the question?
it would be 4.
Because I see 3 parking for guests, 1 for personal use. And one next to the storage shed.
Well, there's an open space for us to park there, but I don't anticipate there be a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And the composting toilet, but you did talk about a wastewater permit.
yes,
So the plan is for both.
Yeah.
yes.
Year-round storage sheds for about what size are we thinking? Are these on a concrete slab or are these just going to be on?
They weren't on.
They're on just gravel slabs.
Approximate size? They're existing or they're proposing?
They're existing.
What size?
Storage shed. One is 8 by 8. And the other one is 10 by 16.
So the 10 by 16, Tom, you must have.
Is that,
The 10 by 16, you've seen that one, but not the 8 by 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm,
and the decks, like those decks.
No, the decks, yes, are 20 by 20.
20 by 20.
oh, you haven't seen the one that's the red building, the red storage shed?
Mhm.
So he has seen, there's 2 on the property right now. It's a storage shed and also a composting shed. So I think you had asked if he hadn't seen one. He's
I
seen
mean,
both.
sorry, let me rephrase, not visually seen, but we received a permit application for a building permit, right?
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with this here.
Right.
Right.
But I was just checking, just clarifying that.
Right, so there'd be 3 tiny houses and campsites,
Well, tents though.
potentially.
But that's a different.
That's a different
Because
one.
that's
That's where we're living.
Yeah, but the tent sites is what we're.
The conditional use.
for
Yes.
official use, yeah.
And then, so campers, obviously, when you say no motorized recreational vehicles, meaning people wouldn't be parking there and using a trail system, or they wouldn't access the campsite itself from motorized recreational vehicles.
We're not renting it so that they can come and bring a snowmobile or anything, and there's no like RV parking. The only thing is that I think that one of the concerns was to have like a line of cars parked up there, and what we've said is that it'll be limited to 3 parking sites. And it's just to accommodate them to come onto the property.
If somebody were to, you're not allowing the use of motorized recreational vehicles on the site, the 90 acres that you own. Let's say if I were into recreational vehicles myself, maybe it was the winter time and I was coming to Vermont or the area that was snowmobiling, or in the summer months where there's recreational ATV use that happens. Like a parking spot, if somebody contacted you, you know, if I had those vehicles myself, and we're coming to the area to use this potential property, could I at least like park them on a trailer on this site? Or is it, you know, we're talking about no use on the property, right? So, but
Do you mean like for us to like give them a pass to say?
no, I'm saying like, I guess maybe what I'm getting is parking. So if there's like 3 parking spots and maybe the concern was, you know, excess vehicles on the road, how would you handle if somebody had a trailer attached or a camper of some sort that maybe they were traveling through New England for the summer and they were, had something in tow. Do the parking spots, are the parking spots big enough in the, so that maybe they could handle a small tow behind trailer, whether it's a camper or has recreational vehicles on it?
There's room for it, but there's no intention to rent to allow. If somebody, like the example that you gave, were to come into town and say, hey, we wanted to be able to use our space for that, no. And we're not advertising for that, we're not.
Sure, I guess I'm just kind of forecasting a hypothetical scenario.
Oh, you're talking about the length of the wall, like put the trailer around here.
Yeah, let's say I didn't, let's just say I rented it from you, I booked it, and then I showed up with something in tow. I guess maybe how might that be handled?
There's some way to accommodate that, the size of it, but try to avoid that.
We also part of, one of the things too was the concern around just having strangers come on site, right? Because it is open, it's not like people have gates up. But our intention was only to advertise on the platforms that have some vetting process that also include reviews on both sides. And also even before they show up, there's a, we also include like rules and regulations, and we've also drafted one where it's like the size of it has to maintain a certain width. And also too, the intention with, when Tom was talking about the other cabins that where we're gonna live on site is that one of the concerns again to address was about someone being there, right? And so we would stop anyone, even if they were to do that, if we couldn't and have them come on, since he's meeting them personally.
Okay. Yeah, it was, sort of forecasting.
Yeah, of course.
Scenario.
That makes sense.
Jim, do you have any specific questions before I dive into the list here?
No, not really.
All right, so basically at this point, I'm just going to go through the conditional use review criteria. And at the end, if anybody else has any further questions that don't get answered, then we can address them at that point. So basically the charge of the DRB at this point is making sure that the project is in conformance with the conditional use standards. So I'll just go through the list. So the first one is conforming with the existing pattern and use of development in the area affected. So the board needs to consider the design, the location, the scale and intensity of the proposed development or use relative to the surrounding neighborhood. So for the purposes of conditional use review, the area effect is defined as within sight or sound of the proposed use. Existing pattern is basically talking about the distinctive traits, qualities, attributes, appearances, pattern of use, the sense of community and factors which define its identity. The existence of one conditional use in a district will not necessarily be interpreted as justification for another similar conditional use in the same area. So I guess this would probably be a good time to open the floor up if anybody has any comments about how the project may affect the neighborhood in the area, I guess, to phrase it simply.
Well, question, statement, I don't know. And I wasn't here the first meeting, so I read the little blurb that you put out. So I don't live on Arnold Lane, but I live on one of the houses, in one of the houses before Arnold Lane, so I'll see the traffic. My question is, are you gonna rent these daily? Are you gonna rent these by the week? Are you gonna, how much transition, how many different people are going to be flying by or driving by or whatever they do?
We haven't discussed since last time we did this, so we were told to stop advertising for it. But at the time when we did it, it was daily. Most of when at the time, if people were interested in it, it was like a 2-day minimum. Actually, I think we even put a 2-day minimum. And plus, because of the cleaning that's required with each tent, I think where it's not, because it changed from like just the campsite itself versus the tent, And we haven't confirmed this yet, but it wouldn't make sense to rent those as daily because that would require us to clean it each time. So we would have a number of days minimum. Also, the interest that we've had has usually been, I mean, if they're gonna spend that kind of money to stay in it, they generally aren't just gonna stay a day. It's like a weekend type thing. At least the interest that we've seen so far has been at least minimum 2 days. So,
So, I mean, because that certainly would impact having someone new come in every 2 days.
I don't like,
Bringing people in that aren't part of the neighborhood, so they have no respect. I mean, and I'm not saying that they don't have respect, but they have no ties to the area.
so,
So they come in, they do their partying, whatever. they
well,
come out.
about the partying part, there are rules, we drafted rules around the quiet time. So since we're living on the property too, we don't want there to be noise too. And so we did also look at the quiet times related to the town of Wolcott too, and made sure to abide by that in the rural area. And again, the thing is, the interest is that people are not, I don't like what you said about it being daily, or like, let's say every 2 days. Most people are not gonna have the ability to even do something like this except on the weekend. So I'm not saying that it's not gonna happen at all during the week, but most interest will be on the weekends.
I get it. I mean, but I would like to see what, what your minimum is gonna be. It certainly does affect the neighborhood. Not necessarily the noise, but the driving back and forth. There are some people who walk, and bike and do stuff in summer.
Yeah, and again, we addressed, like, there was with the state, as it was pointed out, it has to be below 4, right? So we have the 3, whereas initially when we had applied for it, it was 15, which is, as some of the residents pointed out, it's like, we don't want 15 cars driving every day on a weekend, right? And so with like looking into the requirements and stuff, it is reduced down to 3. And it's, again, at the most, it would be 3 over a weekend. But like I said, I don't anticipate there to be interest every 2 days across the week either. So. And plus it gets cold here. I don't know if everyone's like, how much it's cold.
Well, I mean, everyone loves Vermont in the summer.
Yeah.
Along with the residents.
Yeah.
They want to spend time outside and do their own thing, but not have, traffic all the time coming by.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, because, I'm all for people's dreams coming true, for things happening to people that really, with that being said, how long before 3 isn't enough?
That was my next question.
We
How
can't.
long, you can,
Okay, hold on,
eventually,
folks. All right, we need to
Move forward. We can save these questions to the end, but now we're starting to get a little bit far afield of the conditional review part. I'm not trying to say you can't ask questions, but and believe it or not, the next criteria is actually traffic on roads and highways in the vicinity, which we're already sort of touched on here. So we basically need to consider the potential impact of the traffic resulting from the proposed development on the capacity, safety, efficiency, and use of effective public roads, bridges, and intersections. Concerns about pedestrians, bicyclists, or motorists, or unacceptable levels of congestion for local roads, highways, and intersections. To be specific, they're looking at a volume to capacity ratio greater than 1 may be acceptable in the village and village core districts if mitigated through measures designed to encourage modes of travel other than the single occupancy automobile. Obviously, this is a rural area. In all districts, scheduling hours of operations to avoid peak traffic hours is acceptable means of mitigating congestion. So it sounds like we sort of talked about, and I'm actually looking further down into application here, where the question is asked, how much extra traffic will be expected from the campground business? And your response to distill it down, we expect to see an increase of only 4 to 5 cars per week on Jones and Arnold's Lane during the summer. That's
Yes, that's what we had stated.
I have a question, or I guess a statement is this is a private road. Maintain the road as owners, all of us maintain the road, and I'm assuming you would take, you know, but it is a private road.
Mhm.
It's a small road, it's a private road. Our main concern of all owners, especially us, because we live in the beginning of that road. So every car that's going in and every car that's going out, we're gonna hear, we're gonna see. We're gonna see the dust raised, we're gonna hear the noise. You know, they coming in at 11 midnight with the radios blaring. We moved to Wolcott to be quiet. And that's our main concern is the amount of traffic that's going in and out, the noise level and the maintenance. We do a good job at the beginning of the road taking care of it. And he does a good job at the end of the road taking care of it. So that's our main concern is the amount of traffic, the noise, the maintenance of the road.
My suggestion would be for the residents of Arnold Lane to get together at a time other than a public hearing. Because private roads are beyond the purview of the Development Review Board. We can't really regulate or make any conditions on a permit because it is a private road. We can go up to, what's the public road at the end? Jones Lane, but after that, that's, no, because it's a private road.
So basically, after Jones Lane hits Arnold Lane, they could have as many vehicles as they want coming through,
Anybody who lives on that road could,
as many as they want.
as many as anybody wants.
Even if they're renting the 3 lots. I mean, what if?
We have jurisdiction in a sense over the development aspect of it, but not the road itself. Being that it's a private road. There's different situations. Some private roads have an association, you know, where people pay dues. But yeah, that's, my best suggestion is for, you know, all the landowners to come to some sort of an
In that
agreement on.
we noted that there was that concern and we are open to paying our share. As soon, if we want to be contacted to talk about how to maintain it, that's one about the maintenance. Regarding the noise, again, we said that the noise, we are, if there's an issue with our noise and our neighbors tell us, we will talk to the guest. And also, again, we have targets around the noise, so. And then also regarding the number of cars, again, it was, we initially applied for 15, we said now it's 3, and we've also stated that we estimate how much it is. But around the maintenance, yes, please let us know. We want to pay our fair share and be good neighbors.
Oh, it's not about paying. I mean, we all maintain our section of the road. They maintain their section, we maintain our section, and we don't expect you to pay anything. We just expect you to, you know, maintain your section.
Okay, and we can do that. And we've been working with, we've had someone help us too.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And then the next is specific conditional use standards, and there's just 3 of them here. The first one is the capacity of the site to support the proposal. The board needs to determine that the proposed conditional use will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction of the land to hold water, so that a dangerous or unhealthy condition may result. I guess my question is, has there any site work been done for this project, ditching or leveling for platforms? And if so, were erosion mitigation measures implemented?
I just put posts into the ground, just about like the usual 4 feet down, and just built them above the ground.
So no earthwork.
No earthwork.
Irreplaceable areas, we need to determine that the proposal shall not have an undue effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area. Aesthetics, historic sites are rare and irreplaceable natural areas. That will come up in a second in terms of like screening. I guess my question is, how visible is the project to the neighbors? I know obviously there's different neighbors and different vantage points.
Oh, they're unmuted, but I know there was, when we initially applied for it, there was, we had put up a porta potty. And so our neighbor had said, you know, that's very unsightly, so that we removed that. We haven't gotten approved for the conditional use permit. We haven't put in another toilet, but the plan is to put a composting toilet, and we will make sure to have that screened so it's not viewed from the neighbors.
This is Carol. Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, Carol, go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry if there's a weird echo. Yeah, so I think, we definitely raised the being able to see everything because the back of our house basically abuts the property where the 2 sheds are, where the porta potties were, where all the cars turn around. So is there plans, Fong, to like put in some trees, some additional work so we don't see what's happening out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask how soon that's gonna happen?
This year, I mean, as soon as the ground is ready for evergreens, we're gonna just plant some evergreens to block it.
Okay, because I think like from one of your photos from the proposal, like I can see my house. So, I mean, anybody driving through can see my house and my child playing outside. So I definitely, those are a priority in my mind for those to go up.
Yeah.
The last one is water and air quality. The board needs to determine that the proposal will not result in undue water, noise, or air pollution. I think we talked a little about noise pollution. Did anyone else have any questions or concerns about noise pollution, hours of when these may occur? You mentioned that there's a list of rules. Did you mention what the hours of quiet are?
I don't remember, but I think we followed what the town of Wolcott had for the hours. But if there's, I don't have my draft rules, but if there's a concern around that, we can look at into changing it also. Again, we don't provide electricity on the thing, so I don't know if they want to, and we're not allowing generators, so it's not like they can make that much noise too. Yeah.
So will you not be using a generator then? Is that the case now?
No generator.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear an answer. Was there an answer?
No generator. That's correct.
Powering the well.
Are you able to power your well without a generator then?
Solar power, off-grid solar power.
Okay, thanks.
So, we'll quote, like your application here on the water and air quality aspect. The question is how you protect your neighbors from partying, bright lights, loud music. In your response was each guest as part of their reservation must accept a set of rules and regulations that govern their activities. This includes being respectful of both the natural environment and the neighbors. We meet each guest at check-in and review the rules and regulations of the campground as well as safe camping policies. And then the same, how you minimize the impact of the campers on the environment. We don't intend to build any permanent structure for campers. Guests are encouraged to follow pack in, pack out. As a waste management methodology, refuse will be stored out of sight in an enclosed container. It is in the interest of the campground to maintain the scenic and natural areas of beauty. I'm guessing dumpster, small dumpster.
So we have one of the building permits is for on the property is for a trash. So we have that.
What like, are we talking like a small?
No,
The
it's
trash compartment is just a 32 gallon trash cans.
Oh, those are the flip top ones.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then is that in an enclosed, is that in the shed or is that out in the open?
It's enclosed.
It's enclosed. And animal. I say that because obviously bears will find a way to get in anything.
There's
But-
a hand raise.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, Martha, go ahead.
Okay, I'm here, sorry. I was just reading the campground rules here, and one of the things I just kind of zoomed in on is it's about the trash, and it says here, I just think this should be edited for air quality concerns. It says, do not leave any trash outside or at the campground overnight or burn it in the firing. So it kind of sounds like, okay, so it's prohibiting burning it in the firing. Is that right? At first when I read it, I thought it said, don't leave trash out or you can burn it in the firing. Okay, 10-4. Great. Okay, my question's been answered.
Can I ask? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering, at the bottom of this application, I see some images here. there's one page, page 10 that won't load. Did you include a list of rules and regulations?
Sure, we can do that.
It would be nice just to be able to see that right now. I think it might help answer some of the questions that people have. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
I'm looking at the camping and use guidelines, and I know, Fong, you said no generators, but on here it says generators may only run from 8 to 10 and from 4 to 6. So you are allowing generators or you are not?
Haven't updated, so since the first application, when there were concerns or we had drafted it back then, there were rules, I'm sorry. So that when we initially applied for the application, we had drafted that. We since then have not, until we got approval for this, then we would revise it. But our intent is not, again, not to have generators.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I just have, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask one more question, just looking at that camping and use guidelines. It mentions pets. Are you gonna ask that pets be kept on leashes? That is a little bit of concern to a bunch of us who have chickens and other things in the neighborhood.
Yes, we'll take a look at that and the rules around town of Wolcott for that too. Yes, we'll take a look at that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess for me, one of the critical pieces missing is some of the specifics on the camping regulations, like quiet time, like the no generator policy, all that stuff, like being able to see that in writing, knowing that that is actually going to be, either posted or signed by, the camping guests. Without seeing that, I would, request that, in the event of an approval, that would be a condition of approval.
Sure. Like I said, we had drafted one, but as Carol had pointed out about the generators, we'll remove that. And then we'll also address her question around the pets. So, but we do have, I think, remembering what most of what has been a concern, those are probably the only two items. And then also you asked her about the rule, about the time. That will be stated on it too. So after this meeting, we can send you one. That should be a quick edit.
So meaning like by time is whatever PM to whatever AM.
Exactly. Yes.
Fires out at a certain time.
Yes.
No generators. One other question.
I don't know if we had something about fire, but we'll make sure that there's something noted, because we do say something about the fires, but I don't know necessarily about the time as to when it needs to be put out.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any necessarily any times, just sort of talking about people containing their fires and being attended to. Fires being completely drowned and out before heading to sleep. Stuff about, not cutting branches or trees on the property. And looks like you're trying to negate people bringing firewood from outside sources or maybe like out of state. I don't know if the state of Vermont currently has any rules about out of state firewood. I know Maine and New Hampshire do. Maybe, I'm not sure if Vermont does.
I hope we do.
It's last time, bring it from a different town.
Yeah.
They advertise in Vermont campgrounds.
Yeah.
They don't want you bringing wood from someplace else.
Makes sense. Another thing, I just, since you can't see this page, Max, it looks like you're trying to facilitate check-ins between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Maybe I heard a comment of maybe people arriving late or something like that, but it seems like perhaps, getting a check-in in the afternoon time, just like a hotel or something like that, seems like what you're striving for, to prevent people showing up late.
Yeah, Martha, 1 second. I got along the lines of the whole fire thing. And I honestly haven't seen this at any campsite, but do you think it's reasonable to apply maximum lumen rating for any flashlights or lights? Because I'm sure everybody knows now some camp lights are like ungodly bright, and I think that might be a bummer for some of the neighbors.
That's a good point.
If you got people waving around some of these crazy torch lights, like, they're unnecessary really for practical uses. And I'm sure they're fun, but I think, some of the concerns I've heard from the neighbors, they probably wouldn't be stoked to have that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We
And I have
don't.
no idea the lumen rating, like what. What
We-
might be an upper limit of reasonable, but I'm sure that.
We can look into that. I mean, plus we're on site. We don't necessarily want lights flashing at us either. So, and we're closest. So yeah, that's a good point. We'll take a look at that and about the restrictions on the rating or the light.
I'm sure there's something that might say, like this is a reasonable amount of lumen output to carry out like cooking food or, just, walking to the composting toilet. Martha, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. This is back to the fire topic. I'm reading about like how most of the land hasn't been cleared except for the parking sites and the driveway. And so, I think that section of woods especially is pretty dense and it's a lot of softwood trees that are kind of brushy. And so I'm a little concerned about the safety of fires in the kind of dense, close areas around the platforms. Have you guys thought about like that being an issue? Or
I can always, I can definitely address that and clear out some more of the trees.
especially since there isn't going to be like any kind of there's no fire hydrant there to like put anything
Fire
out
hydrant and-
above and beyond like, what a normal house would have. So just bringing up the forest fire issue in case we have a dry summer, and there's anything running away,
Sorry, did you hear, Alan's response? So we can look into clearing more trees related to that, but we do actually have a fire hydrant in each, a small kitchen one in each tent.
Extinguisher.
Or extinguisher, what did I say? I'm sorry. A hydrant, sorry, extinguisher, sorry, not a hydrant. A kitchen one.
I did hear the response. Thank you. That's great.
Is there, maybe nobody knows this, are you greater than 1 mile from a dry hydrant or other accessible water source?
Well, we just put in a well, so with that,
They got brooks and run right down through the property.
Yeah, that is one of sort of like the subcategories in here. So if the fire department did need to drop a line into, okay, that was probably the only other question that I had. So that's the conditional use standards that we've just gone through. So I asked the questions that I need to ask. Does anyone else have any other questions?
What about your regulations for the fires? Are they gonna be like in a fire ring?
Yes,
Okay,
fire pits, yes.
so you're gonna have a fire pit all built. Okay, and will there be like a garden hose at your house or something where if something got out of control, somebody could run and grab a hose?
Yeah, we can also put we've got a yard hydrant in.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I have a couple more questions too. Will there always be an attendant on duty 24 hours a day?
I mean, he's not gonna be there
Not
24
until June,
hours.
because we're building my cabin room.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
the intent is for there's someone to be there year round. I don't know,
Okay,
necessarily
so-
24 hours, but
Okay.
it's every day.
So if there was an emergency or something, somebody's kid is really, really sick or something like that, and need an ambulance, you could assist.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. You said, what time were you looking for quiet times?
Again, I keep saying that it's dictated on what was under the town of Wolcott. I don't remember exactly what that was, but we
Okay.
made sure to match it to it.
Okay, but we've been campers for probably longer than you've been born. And
1:40.
every place we go, it's like 10 o'clock. That's quiet time, and everybody in the whole campground usually observes.
I believe that's what the ordinance says.
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Okay, and somebody did ask about dogs on leash. Will there be, because the neighbors do have chickens, they have a dog, there's going to be a lot of people that don't want, none of us want dogs running down the road. So.
I have to think about that. Well, I'm not saying that we're gonna let, the intent isn't for some camper to come and bring their dog and let them run for 2 days and then wait for them to come home. That's not that. Just like any place that even when you go to a public park, if they do have unleashed, that they have to be there. So like I said, that's why I didn't answer necessarily yes or no. I mean, we do need to address about animals being like, or pets being left unattended.
Mhm.
But I think we need to talk about that first, about just how to handle pets themselves too, if, you know, if we're gonna allow it or not.
Okay.
Can I speak up to that?
Do you own pets?
No, but
Go ahead, Paul.
So originally, when we filed the application with the 15 sites, we were talking about campsites and tents. When we were allowing pets, it was only for the campsites. Now, with the just being tents, no pets are allowed. Just to remind you that was our agreement. There are no pets, leashed or
that was-
otherwise.
you're concerned, Carol, and also, okay, so no pets. All right, so I'll note that in my rules and regulations update.
One more question. Is there
Sure.
water on each site so the camper can get their own water at
There's
each place?
no, there's no, so for the three, no,
Yeah.
there's a platform and then there's a bell-shaped tent.
Okay.
But the location of it is within, I guess, like walking distance to where they can get water.
Okay,
But not each one will have it.
okay.
Carol. Yeah, Carol, go ahead. Carol.
Sorry, I didn't know if you had called on me.
Yeah,
I
so-
have two quick questions. Maybe they're quick. What about some of the erosion around, like, I know you're saying that they aren't going to have necessarily access to water, but you know people are going to bring in water. They're probably going to wash some dishes here and there. So how are we going to mitigate just erosion in general? It is kind of a wetland area in certain spots there, but I just wonder about erosion and how you'll monitor that.
Well, one of the rules we have is we're not allowing them to shower there, or like, I think we put down wet naps or something like that. But if there are I don't know if we put it in the rules, I'll have to look at it, but if they were to do washing the dishes, like you said, or wash something, we'll have to probably address that by saying that they do it only in a certain area. So they're not gonna have free range to do that, like you said, to somehow cause erosion. So, but I'll talk about that with Alan and Paul to address that.
Okay. And then one other thing, I just wonder, like, how can the neighbors hear what's going on from all of you? And like, who do we connect with if there is an issue? I think that was, one of my biggest things is none of us knew this was happening. And then suddenly we heard about it. And I just think if there had been better communication with the neighbors to check in, I think that would have been a great thing to have in place months and months ago when this was your original plan. So is there a way that we'll be able to connect and hear what's happening and know who to go to?
I don't think we're gonna put out now that everyone knows that we're trying to do this, I think what we can do is, Alan's information is available, his phone number. And also we do have an email address that all of us have contact to, that you're welcome to our neighbors too. And what we can do is in part of the rules and regulations, so that since we're sending a copy, we can include that information too. Does that address your question?
Yeah, I mean, I have all your numbers. So it was more like all the other neighbors who perhaps don't really know who to go to because we're not here meeting constantly.
Yeah,
That's
hang on.
good.
You can also come up there and say, stop what you do.
Does anybody else that's on Zoom have any further questions? I finally, the map just loaded on my computer. So I'm looking at this. The water you said was where? I'm looking in the south, I see the 3 tents, and then there's like a path, the parking area, then they walk up the road to where the rubbish bin is and the shed and the composting toilet.
So where you see the vault box?
Yep,
It's yellow, that's where. It is.
okay.
Yeah, and if you look at the page before it, it shows, I guess it doesn't show it there, but yeah, it would be where the.
Page that didn't load before it finally came up. Okay.
So it's not next to it, but it's within that vicinity.
Sideways. Would it be reasonable, I see the part where it says bathing, washing dishes and disposing dishwater must all be done at a minimum of 150 feet from surface waters. Would it be reasonable to try to incorporate that with where the composting toilet is? So any of that gray water is sort of
Yes, we can.
relegated to one small area?
Yes, we can do
We
that.
all, we all like to hope that people can be mindful of, the 150 feet of surface water, but I am looking at the map too, and this looks like there's a little stream right below the campsites. I don't think it's out of the question for somebody to go down and do their dishes in there.
No, when we applied for it, actually, when we met with the, our. Patrick, when we met with our, the person who was helping us with the permitting, he actually applied it for it to include the campsite too. Use of it, yeah.
So let's go to the rest of the great water.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
How many buildings are on the property right now?
There's the salt box, the shed, and then there's for the trash can, I guess, the trash can. So
And you
there's,
said you're building a house, which is permitted. Is there gonna be any other buildings?
no, there's actually 3. There's one for each of us. Oh, Alan, Boone, and then Paul.
So 3 houses
Yes.
will go up, 3 campsites
Yes.
will go up. And this is gonna be a basic question to the town, I guess, more than to you. Why do we feel like a commercial entity needs to go into a residential area? I know that you're asking me for a permit, but to the town, why do we want a commercial entity in a residential with a dead end road? People know their neighbors somewhat, and I don't understand why a commercial endeavor should even happen.
No, it's a good question, and I don't think it's really that the town wants that to occur there. Language in the town plan would speak to probably to phrase it generally, orderly development wherever it may occur. That the reason why we just went through the conditional use review criteria is because you can't just put up a business in the rural district, which is most of Wolcott. So in order for a business to occur, they have to go through these and meet the criteria. So that's, I guess, if you want to look at it as a safeguard or a way to make sure that disorderly development or things happen without, neighbors being able to express their concerns and having those properly addressed doesn't happen. It's not to say that it can't happen. I guess it's a way to make sure that it's equitable for everybody, the applicant and the abutting landowners.
But I think too, I live on Crossroad, and so across the street from me I have one new neighbor across the street, but it's mostly wooded. And if I try and put the shoe on the other foot, I would be in a similar situation to think, oh, geez, well, this is across the street from my house. Maybe I can see a tent platform or, whatever. And so I would share a lot of the same concerns. I think too, what I probably would come to for, I don't know if conclusion is the right word, but I think what's being proposed here too is a pretty unique experience as far as a business goes. I think there's pretty big difference between the 3 tent sites versus, you know, say the campground that's across the street, the Mountain View, right on Route 15. We're certainly not talking, you know, that type of scenario. It's my interpretation that, you know, you're trying to attract a certain type of guest. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus, but I know if I proposed this type of getaway for her, it would be a no-go. She'd be looking for a few more amenities. So I see it as a pretty unique experience, and perhaps a guest that would have more of an appreciation for the forested aspect of it, and the, you know, the reduced amount of amenities that perhaps you might find at, you know, a different style of campground or, you know, a hotel. So, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to share sympathy with, you know, what looks different to people across the street from your house, because I would feel really similar. And I guess at the same time, I guess I can appreciate the effort to try and attract a very specific type of guest, and somebody to enjoy a particular type of remote experience.
I appreciate the comment.
Yeah.
However, you can primitive camp on any city land. So why not, you know, why are you, and you're calling it a primitive camp, which is not really a primitive camp, and you're able to drive to it and have water.
It's on a platform.
And it's on a platform, so that's not actually primitive camping, for one. And the fact that, you know, you're attracting these people, but people, if they want a primitive camp, have hundreds and hundreds of acres of state land that they can primitive camp on. So I don't know that you're really addressing or inviting people for an experience that they couldn't have on state land and not a residential area.
You know, and I appreciate the, you know, the traffic concerns too. Where I live on Crossroad, it's a crossroad, right? So it's, you know, sometimes of the year, especially during the summer, there's a whole lot more traffic, whether it's ATVs or people going to Wolcott with their boats and things like that. And so, yeah, I you know, it's a different scenario as opposed to living on a dead end road, so.
And then I guess I'm gonna revisit what you were saying, is they're saying, you guys are saying 3 primitive campsites. What, is there anything in place that's gonna restrict it to the 3? What happens if next year or later this summer or next winter or next year, it goes to 6?
We all
And then goes to 9.
We all come back.
We can't go above 4.
I mean,
Without going.
Without the required permit, which can be copied.
Yeah, it'll take us on our way of doing it, but we're.
So really, if you think about it, if this passes and you put the 3 primitive campsites in there, next year you could go back to the state and ask for 3 more, and then 3 more, and then 3 more. Pretty soon you got a swimming pool down there with a little camp store, and that is, I think, all of our biggest fears. That's what's going to happen on 60 or 90 acres. Is this is going to get full blown.
I mean, no reason why they don't have a right to pursue that goal, but again, that's why the regulations are written the way they are, and to determine whether that fits in the community and the landscape. The way you're describing it, I think it would be stressed to say a swimming pool and, you know, game hall or whatever.
I know, but that's
Something that the campsites would be arguably, you know, fitting in with the character of the neighborhood. Yeah, Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I'll save my larger question for another meeting, which has to do with the commercial enterprise that's moved into Zach Woods on a piece of private property and excavating business that is very disturbing to the neighborhood and to the natural, very fragile natural area up there. I was impressed with how detailed the DRB regulations are in being sensitive to the neighborhood in which commercial enterprises are located, and yet this was not taken into account or presented to the town in any way, shape, or form by Adam Allen. But my
Application that we're discussing in the hearing right now.
Yes, the question I was going to move on to is that I would imagine that the owners of the primitive campground would be guiding guests to use Zachwoods Pond for swimming and boating. It would be an attraction that would be a part of the experience that you would offer. And I would ask that you guide such guests to use Garfield Road to access the area. West Hill Road that turns into Zachwoods Pond Road is a Class 4 logging road. And people who don't have the proper all-wheel drive often go off the road and get lost up there. And so it would be appreciated by all of us on West Hill Road if traffic to the pond is directed toward Garfield. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Any other questions? Anybody on Zoom? Any more questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the application with the condition that a revised camping and use guideline draft is submitted that addresses all of the concerns that we heard tonight. You know, the noise hours, the fire, the water part of it,
Generators.
and the generators, all the items that were missing are added to it.
And we also removed the pets are not allowed to. That was done.
So we're not talking about a generator, you're talking about a generator turn online or a generator staying on.
But they don't have power.
I'm just asking the question. I'm just trying to figure out what it could be.
Me?
We're going off of what they're indicating.
Yeah,
Because the generator coming on if you need it.
which is
Not right on time.
the standby, meaning like a grid tied. Right, right, because you're not grid tied, right?
No, not group.
No, but I'm just saying.
Would that type of generator be a problem?
I don't know is why you would even be able to install one if you're not grid tied.
Well, they got the EcoGen, which is tied into the solar panels. It is with the battery bank.
With a battery bank, so it kicks on when the batteries go low.
Right.
But that would be for your house.
That would be for my.
If this is the generator uses for tent sites,
No.
is my understanding. Yeah, right, exactly.
Right, so,
Yeah, so that, yeah, that was my understanding. The campers are not allowed to generate
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
Is it going to address the composting problem too?
With the permit, with the composting.
Yeah, you should be tied in, talk to us.
Okay. Okay.
Another question about screening. Did you have plan for the screening?
We only plan on advertising on the platforms that have some type of screening on it. Reviews.
Just if you have a plan, I would just.
We did no screening, yes.
Screening.
Yes, it's in here. We posted on, we put on here that we have platforms. Yeah, it's on the application.
I know that was a lengthy motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Any further discussion or questions?
Can I just, sorry, it cut out a tiny bit, but was putting up privacy buffers part of one of the things they needed to follow through on, Max?
We'll follow through on that. We'll plant those evergreen trees. Oh, yeah.
Did you hear, Carol, did you hear Tom, when, you might have missed Tom asking about the screening being included in, the final plan?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, you're talking about tree screening, she's talking about having
Screening people.
screening people, yeah, we're talking about two different screenings.
How would you, I guess, how should I, you're asking me to include that we will include a privacy screen with our neighbors. How should, I guess, do you want me to update the application to state that? That's, okay, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody's clear on the two versions of screening that are being required. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Okay, so it's conditionally approved. Pending the, the submitting of the rest of the stuff that we need, the.
Irreplaceable.
Yes, we'll send that as soon as we receive it.
All right, thank you, everyone. And I know probably a fair amount of you are also here for the next hearing, which we are dreadfully late starting. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I appreciate that.
Oh, that's all right.
Other than just that.
How's it going?
Oh, for this one, the Whitetail Drive or whatever it is.
I'm Paul Pratt. Yeah, I think so. I was going. Yeah. Well, let's do it. I'm going to be your neighbor. Well, I don't. Someone. I live in the cabin around. As you come over.
Oh. I'm on the other side of the hill from you.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the other person that's on those.
Yeah, then you're on the other side of the ridge.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Where all your houses are there.
The one you bought it off, it's over on the street, I think it's on the other side.
And my wife's on the right end of your road, or the end of the road, there, the kids.
Okay, yeah.
All right, Tom, you ready? All right, I'm standing up because my legs are cramping up. So we are going to open the hearing for 2317C. It's a conditional use application at 7-Eleven. New construction, commercial and accessory use, change use and renovation. So we got all of them. The project description is Green Mountain Support Service is a nonprofit organization providing support services to persons with disabilities located in Morrisville. They recently purchased the properties in Wolcott, which consist of two-unit duplexes, each with 1 bedroom and 1 bath, with the intention of using the space as a short-term emergency housing for GMSS and state clients. Assigned to us via DIAL, which is under the Intensive Transportation Supports Program that GMS is supporting it for the state agency. There are 4 1-bedroom units in total. Our intention is to convert each of the units into 2-bedroom units with the addition of 4 wheel pads, 1 for each unit, in order to have adequate space for both the clients and the crisis support staff who will be managing the clients while they reside on site. The wheel pads will each have 1 bedroom and 1 bath and be physically connected to the existing structures via an enclosed exterior door. They will also be connected to the current septic systems on site. So that's the overview of the project. So we got to swear anybody in that's going to testify or speak tonight. So anybody that's on Zoom, I guess you can sort of join in on this. So do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge under the pains and penalties of perjury? Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so that's kind of the general overview of the project, basically what I just read off of the application. I guess the applicant could maybe fill us in on anything that I left out in the general description.
The summary pretty much outlined it to a T. The location, I'm seeing a question is at the end of Whitetail Drive, 147 and 172 Whitetail Drive.
And I'm just seeing the email exchange here. It looks like there were some questions about zoning and permitting and wastewater. And Tom, did that all get sorted out or? I'm just trying to quickly look because this is the first time I saw these, but
I can update on that if you like for the
great.
wastewater. So we are in process of filing a wastewater permit amendment, working with RJ West at Outback Designs, since we will be adding, 4 bathrooms total with the additions of these wheel pads. We did have an initial yield test conducted on the current existing well system to ensure sufficient yield. And it did pass. Manash was out there 2 weeks ago. We upgraded the pump so that it's providing sufficient 20 gallons per minute, which will be enough for the existing units as well as the additional wheel pads. And RJ is finishing up the application to submit for us next week.
So
the existing septic does not need to be modified. It's sufficient. There's sufficient capacity. And there's 2 septic systems on site, one for each building. And it's currently sufficient enough to handle the additional restrooms that are going to be added.
So is that a revised permit? Is that what that? Okay.
Yes. There's currently 2 duplexes.
I'm trying to read this and make sense of it. So yeah, so it says there's 2 duplexes. There are 4 1-bedroom units in total, and the intention is to convert each of the units into 2 2-bedroom units.
Correct. So it's 2 properties, adjacent properties. They share a lot together, 147, 172. On each of them has 1 building that consists of 2 1-bedroom apartments units. Our intention is to increase the capacity to 2 bedrooms by adding wheel pads. RJ Adler from Wheel Pad is here representing Wheel Pad. They're essentially trailers, although ours will not be on trailers. They'll be permanent fixtures connected to the existing buildings. The wheel pads are intended to be used for the clients who are the persons with disabilities. So they're custom made for persons with disabilities with special needs. but the wheel pads will be connected to the existing water and septic systems. So for that, we did file an amendment for the wastewater permit.
So we're saying that there's 4 bedrooms, 4 units total in the 2 buildings.
That's correct, yes.
And we're looking to add 2 units on these pads
Per building, correct.
per building, 2 units per building, so an additional 4. Gotcha.
That's correct.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So how many total wheel pads then?
4 wheel pads total, 1 for each apartment.
Oh,
One
okay,
per
okay.
Unit, yes. So now the wheel pads will basically go on either end of the existing buildings.
I'm just reading about the wheel pads here. The
Sure.
question. What's the square footage of a wheel pad?
The wheel pad is going to be 200 square feet, or it is 200 square feet. That's the exterior square footage. And then the connector between is going to be 5 by 14 by 14. And that's going to encompass both an interior space and also an exterior space for a little deck right there. In front of the connector.
And I'm guessing the wheel pads aren't encroaching on setback. I haven't been up there, so I don't know.
It's actually 28.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 2 10.1 acre lots. So rather large space. We're only using about the front 2 acres, I would say, estimate.
Okay, yeah. 10.
They're big lots. We're not using the vast majority of the lots.
Questions?
I just want to know who are the clients gonna be?
The clients are persons with disabilities, residents of Vermont.
Kids that are around there. I got pets, chickens. I like to shoot guns once in a while. I just, I want to make sure that I'm gonna be a good neighbor and you guys are gonna be good neighbors and we all get along.
Absolutely. We fully intend to be good neighbors. The clients are persons with disabilities, or mental or physical disabilities, that are current clients of Green Mountain Support Services, or clients that are referred to us by the Vermont Department of Aging and Independent Living. The intended use is as transition houses. So short-term while full-term housing is sourced for these clients. So GMSS, along with other support services, provides housing for persons with disabilities in a community-based model, independent living, where they're placed in a home with a family who take care of them. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to source these houses. So these apartments are intended to be used while they're in transition or in between one full-time placement to another. Yeah.
So there's gonna be the wheelhouses out on the ends where you're gonna have your staff. And then there's gonna be 2 people now in each of the apartments.
It'll be the opposite. So the staff will be in the existing units, and then the wheel pads, which are custom made as ADA compliant units, are for the clients themselves.
Yeah.
And they won't be 100% occupancy. It's short term, up to 6 months maximum. There may be times where all 4 units will be in use. There may be times where none of the units are being in use. But the clients are always there fully staffed. So there'll always be 1-to-1 ratio staff to client. They're trained staff, trained to deal with and assist and support persons with disabilities, as well, address any needs or concerns anyone might have.
And I know I've heard it from the last meeting, being a private drive, I understand you guys. But that's another big issue is that driveway right now isn't up to standard of a lot of traffic. And I can go over with you off this meeting about it if you want.
Sure. Well, we recently had the driveway resurfaced, regraded.
It's washing down again. Dude, you need to do some erosion work.
Oh, I'm not frozen up.
Oh,
Could be our connection.
oh,
We're on satellite internet, so.
Oh, that's
every
okay.
now and then we lose it.
oh, he's back. Oh, there, I see him move.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing. It's breaking up a bit.
Yeah, it's just that, I'm worried about the erosion, because there's really no ditching up in there. That's, the driveway itself is always sucked, you don't mind my language.
Sure.
It's so, you're gonna have a lot of erosion problems up there. There's gonna be some ditching, and plus there's a culvert that has to be replaced halfway down the main driveway.
Sure. We'll address any needs as they come up. So we've already put in quite a bit of money investment, quite a bit of money to regrading and resurfacing. We're not increasing the capacity as far as the number of vehicles. When we purchased the apartments in September, they were all fully occupied. So about 4 vehicles, give or take, going up and down that driveway. There will be no more vehicles than already were going up and down that driveway previously, likely actually less. But we are fully committed and invested on, committing whatever funds are needed to ensure the driveway stays functioning and there's no, minimizing erosion and doing whatever needs to be done in that area. We've already invested in replacing the roofs, put brand new roofs on the buildings. As I mentioned, resurfaced, regraded the driveways. We're going to be adding concrete paths so that they're fully ADA compliant parking spaces, which will also help with the erosion, not on the driveway itself, but up in the parking area. So yeah, I appreciate your concern, and I just want to restate that we're fully invested and we'll commit whatever funds are needed to maintaining it.
Yeah, I just assume, I know we gotta talk offline about.
Sure, absolutely.
So sometime we can probably get together and.
Absolutely.
What's gotta be done if you want. And if we got help, I'm sure my neighbor next to me will be able to work together.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I think we can kind of go through the list here and then like.
There's another question, Jimmy.
Just a little nervous about the disabilities, because just like he says, I have a 10 and 8-year-old daughter that I just moved in back in November. I bought my Drugal place right at the bottom of that road there on the left, right next to Chan. And I got an 8 and 10-year-old daughter, and I moved there to basically sort of be in a spot that's safe for them to be able to run, because I just moved out of Johnson, where I live next to, I rented off Janice, which had disability people there, and I had drug deals and needles in my yard with my kids there for the last 9 years. So I moved out of there to be in a place to, I guess, relax and not to worry about my kids. And just like Chan, I have guns I shoot, and I have toys that we drive and play around with on the yard. I have snowmobiles and 4-wheelers and go-karts. And
sure. We don't anticipate there being any issues with you continuing your activities and doing what you like out there. Just to reiterate, these are persons with disabilities. They're not drug users or criminals. It's typically handicapped persons with limited mobility. To be honest, you're not really going to see them or notice them. They're going to be indoors probably the mass majority of the time. Their support staff will surely take them out to enjoy a little bit of fresh air and things like that. But we're not dealing with persons with criminal histories or criminal backgrounds. It's really persons with disabilities who need support and
I had a friend I went to school with back in the day that had a muscular dystrophy, so it's disabilities like that.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. For the mass majority of our clients are dealing with physical disabilities, limited mobility. They may be in a wheelchair, half-time, full-time. Some of them are mentally disabled, so physically capable and have mental disabilities. However, as I mentioned, though, we have one-to-one staffing, so there'll always be one staff member there full-time, 24/7 around the clock, keeping an eye on them and providing whatever support they need. We do run a current crisis and transition house property in Johnson. Similar, it's 2 homes on an adjacent, on that shared property. So same kind of clients living there. We've never had any issues with the neighbors or them disturbing their neighbors or endangering anyone in the area around them. Yeah, but I appreciate your concerns.
And another question, I guess, in the future, if this goes on, as you got 20 acres of land up there, you're not going to try to expand this any more than what you are at right now for capacity?
No, we're not looking to do any major development on that lot other than what's being proposed. You're familiar with the lot. I mean, behind the existing structures, it basically goes straight up a hill, right? So even if it would be pretty challenging to do any further developments there, and we have no plans to do so, it'd be much easier for us to look to purchase another property that's already built and developed, rather than trying to further develop this property. Our model is also community-based, so we try to steer away from creating facilities in the sense where you have a large, one structure that's housing multiple clients. We really focus on independent living, community-based living, where clients are placed in a home with a family. They're able to be part of the community. So even this property with its 4 units having, capacity of 4 clients is borderline the most we would ever want to have one residential facility with that many clients in one place. So both because of the lot itself and the way it's structured, making development pretty difficult there, and the fact that that's not really our model, and that's not what we would intend to do, is create a large residential facility with multiple clients there. Like I said, it'd be easier for us to go and purchase another apartment or another home somewhere than continue to do any large scale development on that lot.
I have a question. What's the
Longevity of the wheel pads? Approximately.
The wheel pads last as long as any other housing structure, as long as they're adequately maintained.
I guess, forgive me, I've never even seen one. I mean, is this something that's like sided with vinyl or claps, or is this like, I guess I'm trying to envision what it looks like.
So these, sorry, the echo is messing with me. These units are going to be sided with a vinyl siding, but they are built like a house. So this is a modularly built structure. The floor and the ceiling is a structurally insulated panel, and then the walls are a typical framing. So even though it's built on wheels, for our normal models are built on wheels, we've installed about half of all the wheel pads we've installed on a permanent foundation, like we're doing here with Green Mountain Support Services, because for all intents and purposes, it's a house. There's nothing fancy to it. There's nothing proprietary about what we've created. So long as it's adequately maintained and adequately installed, and Green Mountain Support Services is working with a certified general contractor that's going to be able to meet our standards for installation, there's no reason that it shouldn't last as long as the structures that are there.
While you were talking, I just looked up a picture. I was curious, but yeah, it looks like a tiny house on wheels.
I would share my screen and show it, but I don't think too many people are going to be able to see it.
Anybody else want to see what it looks like? Or I think this guy had a question.
I just had a question. Is the wastewater permitting around here, is that done state level, town level, or both? Who polices that? The reason I ask, it's so wet, they're talking about their current setup is going to handle basically doubling in size. It's so wet, so clayey up there, I guess who polices that?
State. Is it ANR or DEC? I just forgot. It's the Agency of Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Conservation.
And that's all fully tested. Basically, they'll come in, fully test everything, and that's not my one concern, just because the lay of the land, how wet it is, there's runoff streams everywhere, et cetera. It's just who, I guess,
Yeah, you need, to the best of my knowledge, you need a approved designed system, you know, by an engineer before the state will approve it.
It's all through the state, not through the town.
That's all fucking state.
He did say he's working with the practitioner right now with it. It's a state. Validating its permit.
So we can go through the list here if anybody has questions that pop up. So the first one's the capacity of the existing or planned community facility or services. And this is an exhaustive list, but they give, for example, school capacity, water and sewer capacity, which we talked about, emergency services, recreation facilities. I guess my question is about emergency services. Is there any potential for an increase in the need for emergency services?
I would say yes. There's a slight increase just because of the clients, the types of persons that will be residing on site do tend to have a higher risk of medical needs or medical emergencies. So there are instances where ambulances have to be called out to these types of facilities.
Well, in the wintertime, that driveway, it's gotta be plowed right from the end, right up through. I mean, this year I'd get done plowing for 15, 16 hours and I'd have to come home, get on my tractor and open it up. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Whoever's gonna plow the driveway, I don't know how we wanna do this, but it's gonna have to be opened up better than what it was this year. Or you'll never get an ambulance up in there or up on top. Just the way it's designed. I mean, the driveway that you guys got, if it's up steep hill, then
It's
it
quite
turns
steep.
and up. I mean, I've tried to put a fire truck up in there before, and it don't work. I mean, it's something that has to be addressed. It has to be really sanded real good.
Right.
I mean, that's, something that you really gotta think about.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had an ambulance drive up to that site, so I can't say for sure. We have had large trucks, fully loaded trucks that have made it up in the winter.
I see them go up, but you really want to make sure it's sanded and salted good. I've offered everybody to, when you plow on my side.
Yes.
So if you can't get up in there, you can park your car on my side and walk up in.
Right. So we've contracted with, this winter we contracted with Brad Blasdale. He was out there plowing, sanding with us. We had pretty minimal use out there. It was myself, our contractor going out. We didn't have actually any clients on site, but I appreciate that. And once we do have clients on site, we'd be much more intentional in making sure that the driveway is as accessible as possible. Yeah.
It's a slippery one.
It is. It's steep. It's steep. I agree with you.
All right, the next one is the existing pattern and use of development in the area affected. I think we covered most of this, but if any, so this really deals with like the existing land use pattern and what the character of the neighborhood looks like. I guess the question, I don't have any, but does anybody have any questions or concerns about the effect on the character of the neighborhood of this proposal?
He's gonna, by the sound, it's gonna be pretty quiet up there.
I think
I'll be louder than you guys.
Yeah, I think so. And that's okay with us. We have no expectations of our neighbors being quiet or providing a silent environment. I mean, the lot is pretty far back. There are some neighbors. You guys live pretty close, but I would say the distance it's one of the reasons we selected this site is it is pretty remote and pretty all the way at the end of the road and very private. So we do want to provide, a decent environment for the clients that are there, but there's no expectation for our neighbors to not be shooting guns or riding ATVs, any normal uses. That's not going to be an issue for us.
Well, good, because the house cats wander up there once in a while.
That's fine.
All right, so the third one is the traffic on the roads and the highways in the vicinity. And I think we sort of talked about this one, about the traffic volume isn't really going to increase any more than it already is.
Correct. I mean, while we're increasing the capacity of the apartments to 2 bedrooms, our clients are not usually driving. They don't have their own vehicles. They'll be in staff vehicles. So again, maximum vehicle use is going to be 4 cars at a time, which is no change over the previous residencies.
That was one concern of the neighbor over next to me, Rachel, was about cars and speeding up and down because she has grandchildren too.
Yep.
I said, I doubt if anybody's gonna be speeding down the driveway.
Yeah, that actually brings up a question I wanted to ask is the staff members, is that like, obviously at some point the staff member needs to get a break, right? So what's the rotation system for the staff members?
There's usually 2 to 3 staff members, so they're either on an 8-hour rotation or there's 2 staff members kind of going on and off. So there are staff members on site 24/7. The nighttime staff members are on site and are expected to be awake throughout the night. So they're working a night shift basically. We have a total of 7 new staff that we're hiring for this project at minimum, which may increase as needed depending on the occupancy.
So the last one here is the specific conditional use standards. So this is the capacity of the site to support the proposal. This is where we were talking about erosion and, you know, the ability of the land to hold the water so that basically it stays healthy. And I think did I miss anything? Does anybody else have any concerns about that part of it? The second one here is scenic, natural, or irreplaceable areas. So since the construction part or the addition part of it is really occurring on already cleared land, I don't think that really applies. And the last one is water and air quality. We talked a little bit about noise and air pollution. Does anybody else have any concerns other than the ones that we talked about already?
I just had a separate question. From a service standpoint, obviously it's private road, I'm not on that road, but I bought on the other side. But from a service standpoint, whether it be our local fire department, et cetera, is this a tax exempt organization?
We are.
Okay. So the reason I bring this up, I grew up next to Crouch Mountain Rehabilitation Service down in New Hampshire. They basically paid the town a stipend, or I don't know if that's the right word, because there was more service, you know, whether it's ambulances, et cetera. And, you know, and being new to the area, I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but as a tax exempt organization, if there are going to be potentially more services needed up there, how does that get covered from a town standpoint?
My best understanding is that the development review board would probably not have a whole lot to that. That might be more of a select board thing since they deal with the budgeting. I've never heard of an impact fee being levied on a development in Wolcott, but I believe in some towns in the state of Vermont, they do, like particularly over in Chittenden County.
I just want to add, we are a nonprofit 501c3, but we are paying property taxes on the property. It's like everyone else does. So we're contributing to the town.
Okay. That's this other place was not, they were tax exempt. And that's,
Yeah.
That's why
No, we are. We're fully paying property taxes on it.
And so this, I'm looking at an aerial map because I've been on Gulf Road, but I've never been on Whitetail Drive. So from Gulf Road up, that's all private?
Yeah.
Okay, right from the, as soon as you turn off Gulf Road, private. Is there like an association or like a legal document that talks about maintenance and stuff?
Well, there's supposed to be an association, but it's mainly been myself and Rachel next door. That's pretty well done most of it. Then when Tetro, they just come in and do stuff once in a while. I mean, we just replaced a culvert down at the end and Tetro did it at the time, and me and Rachel ended up paying for all of it. And now we got another culvert, should be replaced, it's about halfway up. And that one there is gonna cost some bucks because the culvert that's there right now is crashing. And it's got too small of a culvert in here. It's supposed to have like a 3 or 4 foot one in there, according to FEMA. And that's when we had the flood back in the Halloween flood. And that's where we found out that the end culvert had to be an 18-inch. There's 3 culverts. We had to put an 18-inch in. That's what we did, took the two 12-inch pipes out, put the 18-inch in, then that middle culvert, which takes a lot of water off in the town hill, and a lot of runoff, it comes down and through by Rachel's and around, that culvert has to be replaced soon.
So I guess we have another question. Is there any concern over the movement of these wheel pads over the existing culvert?
That culvert is washed out, I don't know how many times I've fixed it. That middle one, it's been washed out, it's big washout, so you've had to throw stuff in there and fill it back in. Tetro fixed it once, but most of the time it's me going and getting what I can and throwing in there. And, you know, sometimes there, you know, I've had to put a chair up, make sure people didn't drive into it. You know, so that culvert right there is in rough shape. And I know it's gotta be replaced.
Yeah. And Jamie Mercio came out and did the driveway grading and surfacing for us, did write up a proposal for us for a lot more work, fixing up the culvert as well. So that's something we have been taking a look at. And we'll definitely keep it under consideration if major repairs are needed there. As far as the wheel pads, I'll let RJ answer that question.
The wheel pads themselves weigh 9,000 pounds. So, you know, and they're not going to be traveling back and forth. They're going to be traveling there and then sticking around. So, you know, if there's damage to the culvert on the way in, I assume Green Mountain Sports Services would fix it.
Certainly.
Well, it is.
And I should also mention that the wheel pads are being pulled by a regular pickup truck. These aren't being pulled in by a big old 18-wheeler or anything. So, you know, it's sort of the typical size of a travel trailer or an RV. So, you know, these are made to go over the road and actually be pulled by anyone without a commercial driver's license. So, you know, the sizing is sort of what roads are rated to for, you know, citizen use, as it were.
Yeah, well, it's posted, you know, but you can drive on the roads with it and stuff. Right now, don't do it because the roads are posted. Don't want to get fined. Another thing is too, if you go to work on the culverts, everything goes out onto Jimmy's land, so you want him involved.
Sure.
You know, you don't want Jimmy, you know, go out there, hey, you guys just dug across my lawn, I don't want that.
You know, gentlemen, I'd actually really appreciate having a conversation with you to kind of go over that and review that a little bit more. I will be out on site on Friday. I was planning on dropping off my business card and a little bit of an introductory letter to all the neighbors. So if you're not home, I'll come knock on your doors. If you're home, I'd love to chat with you. If not, I'll leave that information on your door. So feel free to reach out to me. But I think I'd appreciate having that conversation with you, certainly.
I'll be around Saturday morning, well, Saturday during the morning. Friday I work 12 hours.
Okay. Well, I'll be there on a regular basis, but you'll find my contact information there too. And I think we can set something up to have that conversation.
Well, if you go up to the door, my wife's home this week, the dog is barking, don't worry about it.
I won't worry about it.
Any other questions?
Seen that as I was afraid of at the beginning, so. The mentally challenged one scares me a little bit, but if they're, I guess, basically 24-hour supervised is. Because I mean, my biggest concern is just my kids and being in an area, I don't have to worry about my neighbors yelling at me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that again, but I don't think you have anything to be concerned of. We'll have cameras in place as well, 24-hour around the clock supervision. Like I said, we currently run very similar properties in Johnson that are much more in town with a lot more neighbors around. And in my experience, since I've been with the agency, we haven't had any of those kind of issues where they're causing troubles with the neighbors or children in the area or anything like that.
Well, I got away from Johnson, we get away from it all.
Like you said, they'll probably be quieter than you are. I really think you're not gonna notice much change up there. It might be quieter than the previous residences, to be honest with you.
I've already heard from Jamie, he's heard me up there.
Here we go.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the application with the condition that obviously the wastewater permits stuff works out. Other than that, I cannot think of any additional conditions.
I'd make that motion for approval.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion?
You already say things about the business area, or any other questions, I get hold of them if I have any issues.
Yeah, I encourage you to reach out to me, not only beforehand, but throughout the process. Once we have the clients living on site, if there's anything ever that's concerning to you or causing issues, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm the director of operations with GMSS. I'm always available, so.
And if anyone has a question about the wheel pads, I'm always available as well. You can reach out through our website, wheelpad.com, or my email is RJ, the 2 letters, and then @wheelpad.com.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Okay, so we have conditional approval.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah, that was the only condition that I believe was.
Thank you for answering the questions. No problem. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, I wondered what it was.
All right. I'm gonna take it.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you all.
I see the
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That's the minutes. You wanna take a look? I was gonna say, I recognize you. I thought maybe I worked with you or somewhere, or, oh, no, you were a student when I was maybe like doing substitute teaching there.
That, I thought you were with, either you were with Jamie or AJ. Helping out, maybe person.
I think that's what I was. What year did you graduate?
2005, supposed to be 04.
Yeah, that's when that was probably, I think in early 2000s, I was doing some,
I get a motorcycle at the time too.
I did.
He's talking about it.
See you around, man.
See you later. I got a couple of things.
All right, we'll do the minutes and then we can adjourn, I guess, and talk about, because that's not anything that,
No.
there's no action items. All right, so that can go there.
All right, want a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the minutes are approved and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned 7:50.